Table or truth?
Well,
You're aware I got more stuff. Huh?
you got more stuff.
It's up to you. You made the call.
Let's do 20 minutes. Let's see if we can do 20 minutes of yucks and ments and current events.
Okay.
Well, that rhymed. I like that.
All right.
It's like a Dr. Seuss. You know, last night I had the weirdest dream that I was reading Green Eggs and Ham to a bunch of kids.
Well, that's nice.
It was surreal, really.
Maybe
Yeah.
you need to get your professorship going back again.
Maybe that's what it means. Yeah, that's deep. All right, sorry. Welcome to another episode of Table for Truth. This is the bootleg episode.
Greetings.
This is Tyson, and I am Xavier.
Yes.
And we're here next to a pile of bags and a couple leather chaps in the corner there, I noticed. But
Yeah, I noticed it too.
and a defunct camera, which we will have reinstalled real soon for upcoming episodes in the very near future. We're going to go more TV. I think there's one special episode where we're live and in living color, but very soon we'll be doing
I've
more
been
TV.
correcting them. We won't be live. We'll be on video.
Well, we'll be live on video if you happen to be right here. But anyway, what's on your mind today,
All right.
Chief?
Well, let's. We haven't talked about the Israeli-Hamas conflict, or war. Let's call it straight. After I said that I was done with Netanyahu after the IDF killed 3 Israeli hostages who had a white flag, no shirt on,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
coming to the rescue. And after that, I want a ceasefire. I want Israel out of Gaza. I need the United States, the UN, in the Middle East have a security force in order to protect the Palestinians, and if necessary, there needs to be surgical strikes on any Hamas terrorists that are still left in Gaza. They can no longer be there, and also the Palestinian Authority needs new, younger leadership, and then eventually, once that's built back up, turn Gaza and the West Bank over to them to run. And again, the goal, hopefully, is to have a 2-state solution.
And I think I agreed with you, by the way,
Yes.
overall, that they, after Operation Jericho, that seemed to be a big straw that breaks the completely unchallenged support towards not Israeli people or the nation of Israel or Jews, but the current established government in Israel at this moment in time under Netanyahu. And I think I can represent quite a few of the people I've talked to out there that even if they do support Israel, they're not liking the vibe of the current established government in power because of things like Operation Jericho. It just seems way too suspect. But anyway, keep going.
All right, well, there's a recent New York Times report, and they've been doing great reporting on Israel and Hamas and what's going on there. But they reported that 2 commando units, 100 troops, were moved from outside of Gaza to the West Bank 2 days before the Hamas attack.
Yeah, I believe we went over that during the Operation Jericho episode.
Well, maybe we did. I didn't know if we had that specifically. But it's just unfortunate, the whole thing. But what I can't still understand is, and it appears to be a lot of the youth, whether college and other young folks, who happen to be blaming Biden for what Netanyahu's doing in Gaza. And if anything...
I agree. It's intellectual laziness to just assume it to that degree. And believe me, as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Biden now. But I will say this: the college students that you're proposing, and of course, that's not every college student. The reality is, a lot of them, I think, are just pissed at the idea that Biden just flat out was willing to support, with no questions asked, the current Israeli establishment. It seems to contradict the very vibe and theme that Biden was pushing otherwise in the last 2 years of his campaign. And so he just like Biden being more of that liberal, progressive, I don't even want to say anti-Zionist, but there's something there that people just don't agree with. And I think that actually unified a lot of people together. Why are we putting money into this particular administration in Israel? That's a fair question to help support them, considering the way that the campaign's going to clean out the Gaza Strip. And yeah, a lot of students, feel that. And some of them go to the extremes, of course, and I think there's the problem. It's hard to separate the extremists from like the moderates on this idea, and so people that just simply question the establishment decision are considered anti-Semitic. I don't think that's the case for everybody. I think people that are just honestly going, if there is an issue here with Netanyahu's government, overstepping their bounds and how they're campaigning across the Gaza Strip, Operation Jericho, like that seemed very suspect. Those are fair questions to bring out. I don't think that makes them in any way like I hate Jewish people kind of vibes that some people like to lampoon those detractors. On the other hand, there are people legit that are blatantly anti-Semitic and they're not helping the situation. They clearly are looking for an excuse to just anything down with Israel and indirectly Jewish people. And I think most moderate people do not in any way endorse that and support that at all. And so you've got a mixed bag of proverbial iron mixed with clay in this whole matter. And so the Israeli-Gaza conflict is, as long as people are not being honest about this, in my humble opinion, that these variables have to be filtered before we go to the extremes and demonize either side, you're not going to find resolution. Because as soon as it's like anything, as long as you manufacture or create a crisis where people are pitted against each other, not being rational and reasonable and just going, not everybody's thinking this way just because they're supporting Gaza, Palestine. And not everybody who's supporting Israel is thinking this way either. A lot of people are just like, no, we identify that there's some elements of corruption and just poorly planned leadership on either side. Not everybody, are trying to create order for either side. If this was sports teams, not everybody's a lousy player on either team in the sense of like just cheating and everything else. Like people have legit claims about, I've got a friend I'm not going to mention, but I don't know why he's like but he seriously supports the idea to the point where I believe he'd be willing to protest, the injustices done against the Palestinians for the last like 7 decades, I guess. My question was, and I pulled a you, and I almost pictured your head like on my body. And I was like, if you feel this passionate about supporting Palestine, prior to October 7th, where the hell were you? It took like an event like this and images on media for you to finally just feel this convicted where you really want to like crusade for this. I'm like, if you really felt this passionate, then where the hell was your passion before you were even informed of this? Like, if you knew there was already like injustice in the Gaza Strip, if you had told me this 3 years ago, I'd have been like, this guy's an OG. He legit supports the injustices done economically and maybe even socially in a lot of ways against Palestine. That's fair. All right, but like now it's just like down with the current establishment. I'm like, dude, you're only swayed because you were given sound bites on the news. Like that's not a real. That's what I have an issue with.
Right.
I mean, who wants to be a poser? That's the thing. So maybe I'm being provocative here, speaking out of line, but that's just
no. Again, that's this is an opinion show,
yeah.
And I happen to agree with that because the other question I have is where was all the protests when Assad in Syria were killing tens of thousands of Palestinians with barrel bombs and chemicals. I saw no protests.
I gotta be honest. That's legit. That's real talk, man. I don't know. So, is there anything else you'd like to share with the class?
Yes, this is a little different take, but I found this interesting. All right, the nation's largest credit union.
Leominster Credit Union?
No, actually, it's Naval Federal Credit Union.
Okay.
Rejected more than half its black conventional mortgage applicants.
Well, I heard about that. Yeah.
It was the widest disparity in mortgage approval rates between white and black borrowers of any lender.
And then they apologized and said they're gonna do better. I think that's what they said, right? Something like that.
Well, there's a lawsuit
Yeah.
that was filed by two black applicants who were rejected by Navy Federal for home loans despite having stellar credit ratings and high incomes.
Yeah, that seems about right.
The lawsuit claims Navy Federal violated the Fair Housing Act of 1968 and the Equal Credit Opportunity Act.
Do you want my opinion on
Yes.
this? I agree with you. That's BS. Like that's not cool.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm going to try to be as impartial a judge, okay, I agree thematically with everything you're saying. As long as it's not alleged that the entire organization supported that mindset, or was it just a couple loan officers that apparently were kind of racist? That's the thing. Like if they were denied their loans, right? I know that the credit union represents, because of the people that work under them. The problem I have is that, unfortunately, like anything, you might have some bad eggs, and yes, they're going to make the place look bad reputed, but does that symbolize every staff person in that credit union?
Well, it's not that. It's if you look at the figures overall, that's where you get your data from.
Okay, if that's the case, then you're absolutely right. Then, yeah, I agree with you. So I again, this is going to be a pretty easy one because I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying.
What I found interesting, notably, Navy Federal approved a slightly higher percentage of applicants from white borrowers making less than $62,000 than it did black borrowers making $140,000 or more.
Well, sounds like good old-fashioned racism to me. I mean, as Chappelle would say, stewed to perfection.
Well, since you mentioned Chappelle, I just watched his recent Netflix Dreamers. And I like Chappelle. I, would wish that he wouldn't use the N-word as much, but he's old school, and I remember that back when I was young, and it was for black on black. At times it was endearing, but after I realized that it was hypocritical.
Well, it is hypocritical.
If you utilize it in terms of endearment or to call friends of yours, but if someone of another, particularly white people, use it, then you went off the deep end. It's like that doesn't make sense.
You know what, man? I'm glad you brought that up, just for, I guess, a great intellect. But here's the thing. I saw a video. I'll have to find it for you. It's a YouTube video where an English teacher brought up the same argument, but he's a white guy that looks as white as you're going to get. And boy, was he throwing through the grinder for that video. He actually, granted, he's oblivious, but he brought this up to students, and it was like caught on film, where he, as a white guy, he dropped the N-word, but he was using it intent.
It was a teaching moment
It was
that
a
he was
teaching
trying
moment.
to.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Like, granted, it did come across a little insensitive because he's not aware of like the cultural.
Well, that's where I have some problems with some in the black community. Sometime when white people attempt to engage with dialogue, and they try to be hip, and they make a mistake, and some in the black community lose their minds, and it's like,
I agree.
and then so what happens then? Now all communication is shut down. How I tried to communicate and try to be hip, and I made a mistake. Instead of you saying that, well, I understand you're communicating with us, and we appreciate that, but I'd use a different term.
A different word, you idiot.
Right, but now I wouldn't even go that far.
No, but even then, it's like
Because-
it's understandable. But like, I just please continue. Sorry,
No, that's okay. But the thing is that, and I see this too often.
Yeah.
Someone will make a mistake, and the black community loses their minds and blows it way out of proportion. And it's like, well, guess what? They're not trying anymore. And what I'm looking for is communication amongst everyone.
Communication, and when people want to claim that they're intellectually honest and they claim that they hate hypocrisy, I think this is a great social dilemma that needs to be addressed in terms of just intellectual hypocrisy. Like, at the end of the day, I do agree, though, that intent plays a huge role in many things that are uttered. So if somebody calls me a jackass or a reprobate, but in some weird way I can sense the kindness in their heart when they say it, I'm like, okay, you know what? I realize their intent isn't toxic. It's not vitriolic. Whereas somebody, you can feel it. We're going back to the metaphysical. You feel the intent. Well, that's not scientific. No, it's not scientific. But it doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about. You feel it, right?
Right.
That's the problem. Like, people just don't have the intellectual chops to like actually understand these cues of body language, you know? And again, this actually reinforces the idea that just because something is legal and legalistic terms doesn't necessarily make it metaphysically right. You know, I mean, this is real talk, bro. This is like, we saved the best for last. All right, this is real talk. This is talk on the street. These are the kind of issues that I think if we really were honest as a society, and yes, we were respectful with one another, but we were also a little more emotionally resilient, we wouldn't wuss out every time somebody drops a word that may be offensive, because a lot of it's based on intent. That's true. And then we could just kind of move on with our lives. Not everybody who's dropping like words are necessarily trying to be like hateful and whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I mean, it's that simple. But like, people are just so hung up on words and terms and pronouns, and you're like, honestly, nobody meant it the way you think you did. Nobody's attacking you. This is why I'm fascinated by this idea of these metaphysical, like, you know, what if it is demons? You know?
Don't forget your alien in Florida.
Oh my goodness! Let's finish the show with a bang, shall we? So, a little while ago, okay, as of January 8th, 2024, the craziness has already happened in Miami as we know it. In fact, let me play this and just see what the hell's going on here, and then we can discuss it. It's crazy talk, I tell you. Just tomfoolery all around. I don't even know where to start. I sent this to a friend of mine, so let me see if I can. Okay. Whoa, that's about right. But let me find the actual video here. I think this was it.
It might be War of the Worlds happening right now on this third rock from the sun. The Messenger reports that on New Year's Day, numerous police officers swiftly responded to a Miami mall as a brawl ensued among a group of teens wielding sticks, launching fireworks, and causing chaos for local businesses. However, some observant social media users say that the substantial police mobilization, which even included officers armed with high-powered rifles, was unrelated to the teenage disturbance. Instead, they assert that the situation involved extraterrestrial phenomena.
The basis for this claim is an aerial image that you see that purportedly depicts a slender gray entity ranging from 7 to 10 feet in height, lurking near a promenade close to a row of police cruisers.
Right there, look.
Ex-user Gold Lion posted this video, which we have a screenshot of up on the screen now, of a massive police response in Miami, which conservative commentator ex-user DC Drano responded. So are we not going to be told the truth about why Miami had possibly the biggest police response I've ever seen in my life? They're saying it was for teenagers fighting? What really happened? And another conservative commentator, Matt Walsh, wrote, "It's frankly absurd to suggest that this incident was anything but an alien invasion." Enthusiastic amateur investigators noted that the slender gray entity closely resembled a similar being reportedly observed by a family in Nevada last May. According to the family's account, they witnessed a flash of light in the sky before encountering two beings, each standing up to 10 feet tall.
Additionally, some users drew attention to reports of 7-foot-tall aliens causing disturbances among local villagers in Peru earlier this year. Subsequent investigations supposedly revealed that these entities were in fact illegal gold miners utilizing jetpacks, which is almost weirder than aliens somehow. But I'm as you know, Jessica, we cover UFOs a lot on this channel. I'm very open-minded about all of it. I'm a little skeptical of the Miami story just because I would think we would have more footage if there was a massive brawl apparently happening at the same time as the aliens, and there's all these people at the ball. I want some cell phone footage. I think it's weird that the only footage we have so far is this aerial footage that sort of briefly shows this shadowy figure. I don't know. This one to me is a little bit far-fetched.
Why don't we have any kind of interview of someone who was there that night? Why aren't the police like, nah, for sure wasn't an alien, just teenagers, this must have been photoshopped? None of the teenagers who were brawling want to clarify whether or not a 10-foot-tall alien was there. Like, I really want someone who was on the scene to tell us a little bit something more. I love that in Peru, they saw people with jetpacks and was like, yeah, that's a 7 to 10 foot tall person. They're like 8 feet high. Also, the jetpacks, it could have been a Mandalorian. Maybe they're Star Wars fans. They employ jetpacks as a part of their getup, and they were in a mining place. Maybe they were looking for Beskar. There's all kinds of explanations for why they thought this was an alien. But yes, illegal gold miners, reasonable explanation. The Nevada case, we don't really have an explanation for that one. This could be another 10-foot tall alien. I'm alarmed that the alien stories that we have, they're that big. I'm like half the size of that thing. That's terrifying. But it could explain a little bit why they don't want to hang out with us.
All right,
Because they
I've seen enough.
Okay, all right.
What the hell is going on,
The
Tyson?
teens were setting off fireworks, which led to a panic as some assumed there was a shooting,
Okay,
said Miami Police Department.
fair enough.
And 4 teens were arrested.
Okay.
Police were dispatched for crowd control due to the juveniles refusing to leave.
How many teens were there altogether?
I don't know how many teens
Well, that's
there
an
were
important
altogether.
variable
No,
for
it's
the
not.
assessment. Yes, it is. Was it 100,000 teens? Was
No, it
10?
wasn't 100,000 teens. Some businesses were temporarily closed
Right.
to allow us to clear the area.
Okay, but how many teens?
I said in the days after the incident, users on social media launched a speculation frenzy, honing in on what they describe as Miami Mall aliens.
Okay, I'm gonna have to give it a thumbs down myself on this one because, and I'm just trying to. Okay, so people wonder where I stand on this whole stuff. Let me phrase it like this. In this case, unless there was like literally 3 teens or even 10 teens, how many squad cars showed up for this thing? If we don't have that information, then I can't make an educated guess here. Well, I could make an educated guess, but I will have to conclude there's not enough evidence for me to be convinced it's an actual alien that appeared out of slip space and just freaked everybody out. Plus, you would have seen cell phone footage of this already from various angles, just like in Cloverfield.
Or
it's a good movie, I might add.
Or mall footage.
Or the mall cops.
There is cameras in the mall.
Yo, cameras in the mall, or the police themselves would have like come out and been like, "Dude, I'm quitting." Like, get me a couple cops, give me an entire force. It's like I'm quitting. This is above my pay grade, and I will agree with you. There's aliens. So I think Tyson, I think you just. I'm gonna give you the credit for this. I don't know why, but you just dispelled the conspiracy theory claim.
Oh,
And I like conspiracy. You know me. I'm a conspiracy theory C. They call me, right?
yes, sir.
I'm gonna have to say, just my STEM background is not convinced that this is a good. Like, are there alien potential sightings?
Well, there were 50 teens.
Okay, 50 teens is a lot. 50 teens, you figure 1 squad car for every teen at least. At worst.
Hold it, 50 squad cars?
Well, you said there was a whole army of squad cars, right?
I did not say that.
You insinuated.
No,
there
I
was a
didn't. I
big
said
army.
police responded.
Okay, but if it was just a few cops, I mean, yeah, I'd say the bottom line is if somebody was to ask me, I'd be like, here's the thing. I want to believe, right, Fox Mulder style. I cannot buy that nobody had a cell phone camera that didn't work and captured that on film from various angles at that moment in time. That would make me go, okay. Now, do I believe in hyperdimensional potential beings like the guy, the whistleblower from the congressional hearings had claimed back in June or July? Do I believe that? You know what? My studies have led me to conclude there is no reason not to believe that's a possibility. Is it an absolute? No. Can it be proven yet in any scientific metric? No. If these things exist in temporal space, as the guy claimed, then they would violate the classical physics principles that we know. They would go into the quantum world, which is weird stuff anyway, and therefore they would be able to take advantage of higher dimensions of hyperdimensional space. How a being could do that, just as a nice little science lesson, which is sort of more of a pseudoscience lesson tonight, kids. Well, you would have to be nearly massless to be able to be what's the word? Non-localized, just like a subatomic particle is too, before it's measured in any way to collapse into the wave function of this present. What's the word? Timeline of reality. Okay, if the Copenhagen interpretation of all this stuff makes any sense, if you've ever read it, that doesn't mean that there could be entities that have consciousness that literally have no bodies, disembodied beings. The freaky part, if you really want to go there, is that the entire mythos of ghosts, angels, and demons deals with disembodied entities. Well, actually, angels in theory can materialize according to the lore into real bodies. But the idea is that a body or a being that can take advantage of higher dimensions of temporal space can slip in and out of this 3D dimensional space under the right conditions and also exist in other dimensions. While other beings of higher dimensions that may not be able to have the same powers can slip in and out of space, but their presence can be felt in an immaterial sort of way, like a ghost, as opposed to something that can literally materialize out of thin air. That's freaky stuff. That's straight out of X-Files or the Bible. Take your pick. But like that's lit.
The Bible has aliens.
No, but people have made the
But
argument.
you just said it was. You can take it
can
out
I
of the
can
Bible.
I answer your can I answer your question there, Chief?
Yes.
Okay. The Bible doesn't say aliens, but the Bible, like people have claimed. Okay, this is people claiming. Go research it. Okay. The book of Ezekiel, like the vision Ezekiel saw, some people claim that was a UFO encounter that he had, and he tried to interpret it. I mean, me being someone of the faith, I would make the argument this is more on the spiritual level of like, I know this sounds crazy, this is not in any way science, this is just like, if I'm crazy, then so's 3 billion people that believe in some sort of faith, okay? Because none of this is scientific, that's the point. It goes above physics and chemistry. I can appreciate that intellectually if you're willing to accept that there is a part of reality that is literally immaterial. And let me just throw this. This is a cliffhanger for you guys. This is crazy stuff, but let me explain something. And I want people to do their own research on this. All right. Yes, the physicist in me tells me anything that is immaterial, like is not measured by materialism, is therefore not real. That's fair. The trainer in me, okay, the person who has trained people, many people in the past, and understands the idea of mind over matter, in terms of, you're probably familiar with a colleague of ours up at work who's done an exceptionally good job, shout outs to him, he knows what I'm talking about, who has gotten on a very strict diet. And I was talking to him recently about it, and he was saying, a lot of it has to do with the fact that, at this point, his body had been craving bigger calories, but he's been going on these fasts frequently in the last couple of weeks and really restricting his calories and checking what he's eating. And he's saying now that his physiology is starting to change, and in such a way where after these 3 weeks have gone by, he's finding himself physically not having to struggle as much as if like something is altered inside of him. And I said, that makes sense because it takes 3 to 6 weeks to break a habit. But here's the real punchline. if we are just pure brain chemistry that creates the illusion of consciousness, how is it that there's a side of you that can override the natural, call it the carnal impulses that you have to want to eat certain calories and X, Y, Z? Like, how can your mind fight the other side of your mind? Why would it even care to do that if it's just pure chemistry?
You've made a choice. That's like stopping smoking. You smoke for 20 years,
but
and you stop smoking.
You're not.
It's the same thing.
That
you change your
that
diet.
would suggest. Yeah, but you're not thinking about this deep enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, let me elaborate.
Yes, sir.
That would suggest there's a part of your mind that is warring against another part of your mind. Okay? Or you could argue your brain chemistry and your physiology wants to do X, Y, Z, just like when people have addictions, right? That's fair. That's understandable. We know that scientifically, okay? Yet there's another part of the entity that makes up a person's consciousness that, and again, you could say it's a theory or a hypothesis. That's fair. It's not able to be proven by scientific metrics because there is no science that can actually capture this. But there seems to be, and you could argue with a lot of athletes who push themselves beyond the limits, gone the extra mile, literally, a side of you that overrides the material, which means there may be an immaterial side of your consciousness that literally does exist outside of the body. That you could argue that may be the mystery of the soul. That's crazy stuff, but think about it. That there may be some elements of truth to that. So when people tell me about, bringing this back to like slip space and temporal space and stuff, if there's entities that can actually take advantage of higher planes of dimensions, like string theory seems to suggest, I don't think it's a stretch just based on what string theory itself seems to suggest about higher dimensions of planes of existence for subatomic particles to do what they can. Now keep in mind, if you don't have a body but you're a conscious being, and again, this is just pure, like speculation, right? Not scientific. But if you have a consciousness, but you don't have a body, as a disembodied being, it is possible you could take advantage of these higher planes of hyperdimensional space. Maybe that is the mystery of ghosts, or some entities out there that are disembodied. Maybe they're taking advantage of higher dimensions of temporal space. That's all I'm saying. Sounds crazy. Sounds crackpot. Do the math. Do your research. All right. What do you have to say to that?
That there was a large presence of Miami police officers who responded to the mall, and Miami police said there were no aliens.
Oh, I agree on that one.
UFOs or
That's
ETs.
Fine.
No airport closures.
Fair
no
enough.
Power
but be that
outages.
as it may, what I'm saying theoretically, outside of that, you let that marinate, all right? You just ponder on that, okay? And just chew on that for a bit, all right? And we'll revisit it some other time. I find this kind of lore fascinating. I don't know why people would freak out about it.
I'm not freaked out about it.
That's good.
Again, it's back to my can't prove a negative.
Well, you can't prove something that one doesn't comprehend how it works. I mean, if you knew more, not to sound condescending, but if you knew more, perhaps like the nuances of string theory or even theological philosophy, you might start to feel more convicted about making sense of these very weird paranormal-like things happening more and more according to even what the news is suggesting. Like, how do you make sense of it? How do you make sense of a ship that can literally defy the laws of classical physics and have an inertia that can just stop and then reappear 60 miles away in another part of the ocean that was discovered by naval pilots? Okay, this is no longer sea crackpot theories. This is trying to just have an educated guess to explain how some of this stuff might be possible. If you got a better suggestion that can somewhat align with some science, I'd love to hear it. I'm totally open for it. I'm just thinking, you're right. This was probably a hoax in the Miami Mall. Fair enough, but it makes for a fascinating topic of conversation, which we'll have to revisit in another episode because we're out of time.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, it was a pleasure. I'm glad everybody was here to attend this crazy crackpot conspiracy theories and paranormal activities. The most X-Files episode we've had yet.
I like the X-Files.
There you go. We watch the old X-Files. They're great. The new ones, it's
No, it's
No?
the original.
Yeah, OGs all the way. There you go. I think we can end on that. All right, have a great night, everybody, and good luck this week. Please help support the human race by sharing, hitting a like, and subscribing. Share the wealth of any wisdom, knowledge, and understanding gained when you listen to our show. Thank you so much.